Welcome to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada's recording entitled Inspiring Survivors, Darren Bessette's Story. This presentation is part of the Your Life After Cancer series. In this presentation, Darren Bessette from Ottawa, a two-time survivor of Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, will share with us his experience with life after cancer. My name is Shanda White, and I'm the Ottawa Area Manager for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada. This presentation will last approximately 20 minutes. At LLSC, we offer guidance and support to people affected by blood cancer every step of the way. On June 2nd, 2020, we announced the launch of our Your Life After Cancer program. We know that every cancer experience is unique, and each step has a deeply personal meaning. For one person, life after cancer can mean letting go of the things you cannot control. For another, it's about managing physical and cognitive effects or being present with their family. With time, survivors can find a new and more meaningful way of life, but may need support getting there. We are committed to building the tools and resources you may need to help you move forward after your blood cancer experience. Visit yourlifeaftercancer.ca for these new tools and resources. For example, you can review our new fact sheets on important topics such as adapting to cancer-related fatigue, managing brain fog, or supporting your loved one. You can also read, listen to, or download stories of people who have experience with life after cancer, or people who are managing a chronic blood cancer. Additionally, you can visit our new website to access multimedia resources such as webcast recordings and podcasts with experts in the field. For example, social worker Margot Kennedy shares insights on managing overwhelming feelings and stresses, or social worker C. Elizabeth Doherty presenting on searching for meaning and a new normal. It's now time to begin our presentation, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Darren Bessette. Darren is from Ottawa and in 2016 received a diagnosis of diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Over to you now, Darren.
Thank you very much, Shanda. I appreciate the warm welcome, and also thank you to the LLSC for having me present today. I'm very happy to be here to kind of walk you through at least my journey as to how I've survived cancer. It's probably a very typical journey that many cancer survivors will go through or have gone through, but I'm hoping in the process I can share some of my information and my tips to maybe help one of you better cope with going through cancer and the cancer diagnosis. So to start my presentation, I'm going to walk you through from the start, which is basically where you get your first diagnosis, how you deal with the treatment and the fighting of the cancer, and then work your way through into life after cancer and what that all means, because things also happen then that a lot of people often forget because they're more worried and concerned about fighting the cancer, and then maybe provide some tips as to how you can manage and cope with everything going on with your diagnosis. So if we can go to the next slide, the most important thing is when you get that first diagnosis. It's probably going to come to you as a huge shock. There's going to be a lot of stress going on. Your emotions are going to take over. There's going to be so much information being thrown at you at this time, and you're probably not going to be in a state to really appreciate and absorb it. So first thing you need to do, and it's going to be the hardest thing you're going to do, is breathe. Take the time to relax and understand what is going on and absorb the information that's coming at you. There's going to be a lot coming from doctors and nurses, possibly even some friends and family will also pipe in to try to give you some help and support and information to deal with this cancer diagnosis. But it's very important for you to either have somebody with you to help absorb that information, or to try to take the time to really absorb it and ask questions, not just now, but continue to ask questions throughout the entire journey. The more you can understand and see what treatment options are available to you, the better you're able to manage and cope with the diagnosis and potentially the treatments, and hopefully the cure that comes with it. So do your research, ask questions, talk to doctors, confirm your bias, confirm your information with the experts, and prepare yourself for a long journey, because it's not going to be an easy one. Dealing with cancer has a lot of challenges associated with it. So you're going to be set up both at the beginning during your diagnosis and during the whole process with multiple appointments. Going to be a lot of doctor visits, going to be a lot of blood work, scans, tests. Not only that, the treatment itself will have a lot of procedures involved with it, whether it's biopsies or chemotherapy, radiation, pills. And then once you go through all that, there's the side effects of treating the disease. So the nausea, the diarrhea, the constipation, the lethargy. It's going to be a challenge, and you need to be aware that it's there, but it comes with the benefit that it's hopefully doing some good for you. So to keep that in mind, it's really not a death sentence. So the thing to keep in mind is that in many cases, the cancer you're dealing with now could have a cure, or at least be managed for a very extended period of time. It may not be completely cured, but it's probably survivable for years or even decades. So keep that in mind when you get that first diagnosis, that it's not the end of the world. It's going to be challenging. There's going to be a lot of hardship throughout, but the key to think of is that it's probably a cure is available. So talk with your doctors. Oftentimes there may be trials that could help you in specific situations, and now with a lot of the gene therapies, such as the one I had with the CAR T cell, it's opened up a lot new opportunities to find cures and mitigation of cancer that were not there before. So always keep an open mind and ask the questions to make sure that you're getting the best information and you're being given the best treatment possible for your particular situation. So if you're one of the lucky ones and you make it to the point of remission, then let's celebrate. However, this is probably going to be the most challenging part of the entire process. And it seems so ironic because you're in remission. You should be celebrating and being happy. However, this is the point where it seems that a lot of your support group starts going off into other directions. So your medical team that was helping you through the process, the doctors and the nurses and all that, have essentially, quote unquote, cured you. So therefore, now they're focused on the next patient that's coming through. You're now in a state where you're almost left alone because everyone assumes that, hey, you're normal again, get back to it. So you start trying to get back to work and you're finding it's very challenging. That chemo fog, that lack of energy is very daunting, and it just increases the anxiety because now you don't know if you can perform as you did before, given how you're currently feeling. And it takes a long time. So you got to give yourself that time to really fully heal, even after the doctor says you're healed from the cancer, because there's a lot of side effects that just take a really long time to build back up to what it once was. Especially when you're going into the workplace, there's expectations all around you from the people you work with. Sure, they understand that you've had cancer and you've gone through a big thing, but they still may have the expectation that you're able to perform as you did prior to your diagnosis, which is not always the case. You have to take the time and ensure that you're progressing at the right pace that you can manage. But obviously, this is going to increase your anxiety because you want to feel accepted and know that you're performing with respect to everyone else in the workplace, and trying to meet these expectations that are possibly too lofty for you at this period of time. So the big thing is that you got to understand that it will come back. It's going to take some time and you just need to relax. But at the same time, you're no longer the same anymore and you need to accept that. So I was on a vacation this past winter. I was one of the few that was able to get away before the lockdown. And I saw this on a side of a shack. And it really, to me, emphasizes the cancer patient's motto. And it's a quote from Bob Marley. I'm going to read it, and I really want you to really absorb the words. You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. Think about that for just 1 second. How many times have you been in a situation where you didn't think you could do it, but through trial and error, practice and knowledge and learning, you got to a point where you were able to do it and become better? That takes strength and perseverance. And this quote really emphasizes that, because when you're going through a cancer diagnosis, there's going to be points where your strength is going to be pushed to its limits. It's going to be a challenge just to get off the couch or out of bed every day to continue with this fight. And it's really important to understand that you may still have something left in the tank. You just don't realize it yet. And when I talk about strength, there's a lot of things people think about strength. I'm not talking about physical strength to be able to lift weights and move and fight. Sometimes strength actually involves having the courage to stand up to your convictions. In some cases, as bad as this will sound, it could be that you strongly believe that fighting the cancer is not worth the side effects you're going to feel. Strength is needed to be able to stand on that decision overwhelmingly against all the loved ones around you who want you to stay around as long as you can. That takes strength. That is not the strength that requires muscle. That is a strength that requires deep down passion to be able to have the conviction to ensure that your decision makes sense and you're going to be happy with that final decision. So sometimes it's not about, picking yourself up physically, but sometimes you need to pick yourself up mentally as well. As the quote here says, it isn't a failure unless you stay down. So strength is there when you need it. You need to be able to get off the couch once in a while to walk, to get yourself your own glass of water, because then you know you're at least achieving more than what cancer is fighting you against. So the key thing that a lot of people talk about is, are you a cancer survivor? Not everyone wants to associate themselves as a survivor, and oftentimes you hear the term warrior. As a result, I wanted to put this slide in because I sometimes identify myself with either or, and I wanted to kind of give my definition of what I think these two names or badges represent. So to me, a survivor is someone who endures until the end, versus a warrior is someone who fights until the end. And the best way to really explain my thought process on this is to provide an analogy. So if you were to imagine somebody being stranded on a deserted island, the person who's a survivor would wait until someone comes around to save them from that island. They have survived long enough for someone to come rescue them. Versus the warrior put into a similar situation will find ways to get himself or herself off the island in any way possible, whether it's building a raft, looking for a way to maybe swim to the nearest shore, or find other tools or other mechanisms to signal a way out of this situation. So why I wanted to bring this up is because oftentimes people don't quite understand if I should be telling someone that they're a survivor or a warrior after they've beat cancer. And in some cases, it may be necessary to use either one of these approaches when working through and fighting your cancer diagnosis, your cancer treatments, because there are times where the warrior mentality will come in where you really need to fight and work at getting through the whole process, where other times it may be just better to just take it easy and let things happen and wait until a better time to start to fight. So I'm not saying that either approach is better than the other, just that at times it makes sense to use either one depending on your given situation. So one of the things that's really important throughout your entire process is to organize your teams. They will help you get through the challenge you will be faced moving forward. You need a team that's on your medical team, which is your doctors, your nurses, and that medical group to help you understand your diagnosis, understand the different pathways possible for treatment, and also understand the side effects you're going through. But not only that, you need your support group, those people in the background that are going to help you through the tough times, get you to your appointments, and be there when you need them. Someone you can talk to about the issues and the problems you're going through. You also need a team of peers, like-minded people going through similar treatments, similar diagnosis, similar cancer problems that you're going through, so that you can share ideas and see what works for them that may work for you and vice versa. And then most importantly, you need the fans. You need those people in the background that are there cheering you on with each one of your success, whether that's just getting out of bed every day. Those fans will help provide that positive side to encourage you to keep fighting and keep moving forward as you go through this process. Another thing that's really important when it comes to these teams is the sharing of info. In my experience, the more info I could share with these teams, the better they were able to relate to what I was going through and empathize more freely with how I was feeling. It's very important to share this information because you want them to understand so they don't feel as though you're blocking them out just because you're actually having a bad day. It has nothing to do with them. It's just the treatments are just so rough that day that you just can't deal with it, and it's not them. One of the most important things in all of those is that you're going to have to learn to say no. Though people want you at their events and want to be with you, sometimes you just can't do it. And you have to be able to have the courage to say no. And it's not a problem with them. It's just that day you just can't do it. You'll do your best most days, but sometimes it's just not there. And with that, one of the things that probably is the most heartening for a cancer patient is those close contacts, those close friends who cannot deal with a diagnosis. And for some reason, instead of working with you and helping you and being your support group, actually turn away and leave and stop communicating with you, not because of you specifically, but because they can't deal with your diagnosis and the potential of something happening to you. So rather than deal with it and work with you to learn and how to adapt, they just turn a blind eye and walk away, and you lose your friends. Keep that in mind, that that will happen, and it's not your fault. And that's the most important part. It is not your fault. They will hopefully come around at some point in time once they realize what they did, but don't feel bad for yourself. It's their problem that they need to work through, and hopefully they will get the support they need to do that and come back and work with you again. So what lies ahead? It is not going to be easy. You're going to have good days and bad days. And the key here is to try to make the most of every day. Hospitals suck, and I'm telling you that because I've been in a hospital way too often, but try to make the most of it. There are people around you that want to help you, and keep that in mind. I know you're having a bad day and they're there poking and prodding. They just want to do what's best for you, so don't take it out on them. Try to appreciate the process, as hard as this is and as dumb as it sounds. Try to find the good in the process and know that by doing this, you are getting better, and hopefully you'll keep that positive attitude throughout. Most importantly, that I have to emphasize is that during this entire path, you need to live. And what I mean by that is you gotta do what you can that makes you feel happy. In my situation, what I did is I created a whole bunch of milestones and missions, no matter how small, to remind me that if I did this, cancer did not win. That could be as simple as getting out of bed and saying, I got out of bed, I got into pajamas, and I went downstairs to the couch to watch TV on the couch. That to me was a milestone, because that means that cancer did not beat me. I was able to do that. So in other cases, it meant that I could maybe even do more, where I was able to go out, maybe if it was only for 5 minutes and visit with my friends. But that to me was a milestone, and that would represent that I was not letting cancer win. You need to figure out what your own milestones are and what your own missions are and fight those battles. You gotta keep the attitude that if I can do this little bit each day, each hour, each minute, cancer's not winning, and that's the most important fight of all. So what are the takeaways? The biggest thing I can emphasize is that it's not going to be easy. It is a long, hard process. And like in my case, it could come back a second time. Who knows? But the key thing is that you gotta set yourself up for the long haul. It's going to be tough. It's going to be draining. It's going to take a lot out of you. But in the end, you can survive, especially now that it's not a death sentence that it once was in the past. What you need, though, is to have the courage and conviction and the strength in order to push yourself through this process at every step of the way, no matter what you choose. It's your decision on how you fight, and you need the strength to be able to back that up and not let others convince you otherwise. But ultimately, though, you need to live. It's all about your well-being, and you need more than ever to be able to set your own milestones, your own goals, and use that as a momentum in order to get past this, whichever way you can. So that concludes my presentation. I know this is not a live presentation, so I've left my information here. Feel free to reach out to me at any point in time to ask me questions. I'm more than happy to share my experience and my opinions on how to go through this. I hope it was informative and that you were able to get at least something out of it that maybe was new to you. And again, this is all my information, so please reach out whenever you feel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us today. We would also like to thank CIBC, our national partner for the Your Life After Cancer program. Visit yourlifeaftercancer.ca for more resources. And don't hesitate to contact your community services manager for support at each step of your blood cancer experience. Thank you all for listening to our recording. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.